I'm very in my feelings right now because I'm back in my hometown in Germany. It's called Gera, and I'm on the street where I grew up in the 90s, and it's such a flashback. It's like it looks exactly the same. This is where I was in the 90s as a child on this street, and I had the best summers here with all the kids in the neighborhood. It's really, wow. I can still hear the 90s music playing from the gardens. I haven't been here for so long. Sommerleite. That means summer lane. That's where I grew up. So the neighborhood that you just saw, where I grew up on, Summer Lane, was built in the 1930s and it was surrounded by fields. So everything that was built around it was built during the GDR, during East German times. And yeah, you can see it. It's totally the style of socialism, I guess. That's what you say. Like here, look at this fountain there. We used to play in that fountain when we were children. Now it's just grass. It doesn't even work anymore. And it looks very much like socialist architecture. It really is a shame what happened to this area. Like back in the day, it was like full of people hanging out, going grocery shopping, whatever, school children, because my elementary school was right over here, is right over here. But yeah, now everything is closed and boarded up. It's a shame. It really is a shame. This is a typical socialist style school, full of asbestos. So here you see one of the original Tatra trams, but restored, and they used to have them all over East Germany. There's another one. They're very east. Okay, so let's take a ride on an old Tatra tram. And you can see the wide open streets. Yeah, that's very, very socialist style. You can find these wide open streets everywhere in the East, not just in East Germany.
Nächste Haltestelle Schäfflerstraße.
So here you can see old socialism architecture. So this is the House of Culture in the city center, and as you can see, it is beautiful socialist architecture. So this is basically a shopping street in the center. Back in the day, this used to be crowded with people. I remember, it was like Times Square of Gera. This is the medieval Old Town and the market square with the city hall. nice to be back in my hometown. Look at that view behind me. This is a high school. More socialism architecture. As you can see, it's falling apart. This is a original East German or Eastern house facade, gray and crumbling. Except for the blue part on the right. This is redone, yeah. So over there is the beautiful youth-style theater with the golden angel on top. And it used to look like this. My parents always used to take me here because they used to perform like Brothers Grimm fairy tales all the time. But I hated it because every time I had to go to the theater, I had to stop playing with my friends. So one time I just wouldn't show up, so I didn't come home, and I came home hours later, so on purpose I missed the theater, and I came home and my parents were so mad at me. I remember that. I still feel bad about it. One time they performed The Frog Prince right there, and it was very magical because I was a big fan of the Brothers Grimm fairy tales, even though I didn't want to see them in theaters, but it was very magical to see it right there. Over there is the part of town called Unterm Haus, which is where the famous painter Otto Dix was born. His birth house is right behind the church over there. I'm walking on a street with houses that look just like they used to back in the GDR, East Germany. But of course they look much nicer and clean. These ones are like empty and boarded up because they're going to renovate them. But yeah, you can see in the back there, it's so cool. You can tell I'm obsessed with the GDR. A typical school in the GDR. Friendship. So these plate buildings, called Plattenbau in German, they were actually considered modern back in the day. And yeah, I mean nowadays they look terrible. And they really haven't changed at all. I mean usually they renovate them, but these two here, they look like what they used to look like back in the day. I mean just a little bit more up. I really want to mention at this point that I don't want to talk bad about the GDR, East Germany. I mean, I also don't want to talk greatly about it because the political system was bad, you know? But when I talk to my family about those days, because they grew up in that system, they always tell me that it wasn't as bad as people always make it seem like. Because, you know, everyone had a home, there was no homelessness, everyone had a job, everyone had enough to eat. People knew their neighbors, it was a big community, everyone was friendly with each other. You know, it wasn't as bad as they sometimes make it seem like. And, you know, my family always says if they would have let people go to capitalism, if everyone would have been just free to go wherever they wanted to, people would have come back because they would have learned to appreciate socialism. And I agree with that because I think capitalism is destroying us. It's just so unfair and evil, you know? I'm a big Marxist. And I think we need to spread the word for socialism again. Because our society is just so... it's f***ed up, you know? Welcome to Berlin, where I used to live for 8 years, by the way. I'm now right next to the wall, where I can't proceed because I'm an Eastie. Well, I can actually just walk through the bars. Nowadays I can, but back in the day, That was the end. The end of a land. The end of the GDR. Like being put in a cage. Socialism, capitalism. Socialism, capitalism. Socialism? Yeah. This is where the wall used to be. Okay, so let me show you one of my favorite shops in Berlin. It's called VEB Orange, and they sell like 60s, 70s East German stuff, like everything about communism, socialism, like furniture, clothing, kitchen supplies, everything. It's so fun. This is Karl Marx Allee, or Karl Marx Alley, formerly also known as Stalin Allee, and it has the beautiful socialist architecture and the wide streets that you can find all over the Eastern Bloc. And there's a fountain in the back that usually works, but there's construction work right now, so unfortunately it doesn't work, but it's beautiful when it does. So behind me you can see the TV tower, or Fernsehturm in German, which is basically the center of the East, and it stands at Alexanderplatz, which was basically the main square of East Berlin. This is Kino International, which was basically the main movie theater in East Berlin, and it still acts as one today. And they used to have all the movie premieres here. I remember the story of an actor who had a movie premiere in here. I think it was for the film Coming Out, which is a great film and the first and only queer movie of the GDR. You should check it out. My dad showed it to me when I was a teenager. Anyways, they had the movie premiere in here, and then they heard about the protests that were going on. So he left his premiere to join the crowds at Bornholmer Straße, Bornholmer Bridge, which was the first spot where the people broke through into West Berlin, and it was the beginning of the German reunification. Café Moscow across the street was a very famous restaurant in East Berlin. There used to be a club right there on the top. I am such a nerd for this stuff. I feel like bald and bankrupt. By the way, I would love to show you more of Berlin and its history, of course, but you know, I just don't have the time because I need to catch up with so many friends since I lived here for a while. And it's just not possible for me. But you know that there's so many videos of Berlin on the internet, so you'll be fine.